Before we dive into today's story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another behind-the-scenes journey. Some stories in Hollywood shine bright, while others hide in the shadows, buried beneath long days on set and choices that never make it to the screen. Sam Elliott lived through one of those hidden stories during the making of Tombstone. He had stepped into the role of Virgil Earp with pride and quiet confidence. But behind the cameras, he watched something unravel that changed the film forever. It wasn't gunfights or stunts that caused the real struggle. It was decisions, compromises, and painful moments no audience ever saw. And the truth he later revealed reshaped how fans understand the movie's legacy. When filming began in 1993, Elliot felt something rare for a Hollywood project. He believed deeply in the script, the characters, and the emotional honesty written into them. Virgil Earp wasn't a flashy hero. He was a man of duty, heart, and responsibility. Elliot saw an opportunity to show the human side of the brother behind the legend. Kevin Jarre's script gave every character depth and dignity, not just guns and grit. But within days of shooting, Elliot sensed a crack forming in the foundation. Scenes moved slowly, tension simmered, and the set felt strangely unsteady. Jarre had written a brilliant story, but directing it proved far more difficult. As wide shots dragged on and close-ups disappeared, energy leaked from the film. Quietly, Elliot realized the battle to save Tombstone had already begun. By the end of the first month, Disney grew frustrated with delays and rising costs. The Christmas deadline loomed dangerously close, and the production fell behind. After weeks of concern, the studio made a decision that shook the cast deeply. Kevin Jarre, the very man who had created the world they loved, was removed. For Elliot, it felt less like a correction and more like losing the ship's captain. He respected Jarre's writing more than most scripts he'd read in his career. Seeing him pushed aside left a sadness Elliot carried for years afterward. But Hollywood rarely slows down to grieve its creative wounds. A new director, George P. Cosmatos, stepped in to fix what was broken. And the film entered a new phase, equally intense and far more controlled. Cosmatos brought discipline, but the real guiding hand belonged to Kurt Russell. Elliot later revealed that Russell quietly took charge behind the scenes. He wrote nightly shot lists, reworked scenes, and helped keep the movie alive. Val Kilmer confirmed that Russell spent long evenings planning the next day's work. Elliot watched the effort with a mix of admiration and heartbreak. Admiration, because someone stepped in to stop the production from collapsing. Heartbreak, because it meant Jarre's original vision was slowly fading away. Nearly 30 pages of character-building moments were cut from the script. Much of Virgil and Morgan Earp's emotional story vanished overnight. And Elliot silently carried the weight of seeing his role shrink piece by piece. For a man known for restraint and dignity, Elliot handled the disappointment quietly. He didn't argue or demand more lines, even though he felt the loss deeply. Instead, he focused on preserving small truths about Virgil wherever he could. He added subtle gestures, pauses, and tiny scraps of dialogue to keep the character alive. These weren't acts of ego. They were acts of loyalty to the story he believed in. He wanted audiences to feel the responsibility that defined the Earp brothers. Even if the script offered fewer chances, he found ways to let it shine. His performance became a quiet rebellion carved into every scene. A reminder that heart isn't measured by screen time. It's measured by honesty, presence, and purpose. Behind the camera, the set was becoming a pressure cooker. Cosmatos clashed with cinematographer William Fraker over style and packing. Fraker wanted artistry, beauty, and emotional shots that breathed. Cosmatos demanded speed, structure, and absolute control. The arguments grew so heated that one day their golf carts collided in frustration. Crew members walked off, replacements came in, and the tension thickened. Elliot didn't shout or pick sides, but he felt the weight of the chaos. He had joined the film for its spirit, and now that spirit felt fractured. Days grew long, tempers grew short, and exhaustion became routine. Yet Elliot kept showing up with the same steady resolve that defined Virgil himself. Adding to the pressure was a rival production happening nearby. Kevin Costner was filming Wyatt Earp, a big-budget 3-hour epic. Russell worried constantly that audiences would ignore their smaller film. He feared their hard work would be overshadowed by Costner's star power. One night in a hotel, Russell voiced his concerns to Elliot. Elliot listened, then cut through the worry with blunt clarity. He reminded Russell that no rival could match their cast's chemistry. He believed Jarre's dialogue had a rawness that couldn't be duplicated. He insisted that heart beats scale every time. And his confidence quietly steadied the entire team. When Tombstone finally released on Christmas Eve 1993, exhaustion clung to the cast. They had survived rewrites, long nights, creative shifts, and emotional strain. But the audience response washed over them like a breath of relief. Fans embraced the film's intensity, humor, and unforgettable performances. Val Kilmer's doc, Holiday, became iconic almost instantly. Kurt Russell's Wyatt Earp delivered strength and grit in every frame. And Sam Elliott's Virgil offered the moral compass the film needed. The movie doubled its budget and became a surprise hit across the country. Months later, Costner's rival film arrived to a much colder reception. History quietly proved Elliot right. Heart had indeed won over spectacle. Even in victory, Elliot carried a bittersweet ache from the experience. He remained proud of the film, but saddened by what audiences never saw. The removed scenes would have given Virgil more humanity and emotional depth. Moments of family, laughter, and quiet struggle were lost to the cutting room floor. Elliot often said the original script held a richer tapestry of brotherhood. He believed those missing pages would have elevated the film even higher. But he also accepted the reality of filmmaking. Some dreams get reshaped. What mattered most was that the film survived its storm, and that the characters still spoke truth, even through trimmed lines. His pride and his sorrow lived side by side, forever tied to Tombstone. As the years passed, Elliot spoke more openly about the film's difficult birth. He described the experience as both inspiring and heartbreaking in equal measure. The cast had poured their souls into the project, despite the obstacles. But he never forgot the early spark that Kevin Jarre's script carried. He believed that spark was dimmed, though never fully extinguished. Elliot said those lost moments would have offered a deeper look at the Earps' bond. Scenes of quiet dinners, shared burdens, and simple humanity were erased. They weren't flashy scenes, but they held emotional truth. He felt audiences would have understood Virgil on a richer level. And that understanding still lingered in the back of his mind. Still, Elliot chose to focus on what the film achieved rather than what it lost. He often said the cast's dedication held the entire production together. Val Kilmer's transformation into Doc Holliday became legendary among fans. Kurt Russell carried responsibility that went far beyond acting. Michael Biehn and Powers Booth brought intensity to their roles as outlaws. And Elliot himself grounded the story with quiet strength. Together, they created something that felt raw, lived in, and authentic. A film that didn't just entertain, it echoed long after the credits rolled. Elliot believed the audience felt that authenticity instantly. And that connection mattered more than any missing pages. One moment Elliot cherished, even in its simplicity, was Virgil saving a child. It was a brief scene, easy to overlook in the chaos of the OK Corral buildup. But to Elliot, that moment defined who Virgil truly was. A man who acted out of duty, not out of desire for glory or violence. It was a glimpse into the heart of the character that the script once highlighted. That single act captured everything Elliot hoped to preserve. Even when scenes disappeared, that truth survived the editing room. He believed audiences felt the weight of Virgil's choices without explanation. Because sometimes a gesture speaks louder than any monologue. And in that silence, Virgil's soul remained intact. Over time, critics began to revisit Tombstone with fresh perspective. Many came to recognize Elliot as the film's moral center. His steady voice and calm presence provided balance to the fiery scenes. He wasn't the loudest character, but he carried the deepest responsibility. Virgil represented the quiet cost of justice, the price of doing what's right. That sense of weight defined Elliot's entire performance. It wasn't dramatic flair, it was quiet truth. And audiences, even decades later, still feel that honesty. What he delivered survived long after trends and comparisons faded. A lasting reminder of how subtlety can anchor a story. Even with time, Elliot never stopped thinking about the film's difficult journey. He called it one of the most challenging shoots of his career, but also one of the most unforgettable. He believed the hardships shaped the final product more than people realized. The exhaustion, the pressure, the emotional stakes, all of it lived on screen. And that rawness is partly why Tombstone became a classic. Elliot felt proud that they pushed through when giving up seemed easier. He respected every actor and crew member who stayed until the end. Because the film wasn't just made, it was earned. And that gave it a power time could never erase. Today, Tombstone stands as one of the most beloved westerns ever filmed. Fans quote its lines, celebrate its performances, and revisit it year after year. Elliot's confession reminds us that great movies often rise from turmoil. Behind the legend were sacrifices, heartbreak, and resilience woven together. He protected Virgil Earp's spirit even when the script couldn't. He carried loyalty to the story long after the cameras stopped rolling. And in the end, his quiet strength shaped the film more than many realized. The missing scenes may never be seen, but their echoes remain in his performance. Tombstone survived because its cast believed in something deeper than gunfights. So tell us in the comments, would the film be even greater with those lost moments restored?